right, is that okay? Yes, everybody, come on, say, whatever the problem, 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 it all in his head. I know he, I know he, I know he, I know he, this and that, yes, this and that, oh, this and that, this and that, this did and that, this did and that, this did and that, this did and that. Look, this, 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 and that, 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 no matter, hey, watch me, here we go. Now need everybody get their breath and say, ah! Yes, sir! Ah! Yes, sir! Yes, sir! Ah! Come on, let the Holy Ghost. Come on, let the Holy Ghost. Come on, let the Holy Ghost. Put it up in his hand. Give a little praise in the house. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, choir. Thank you again, Pastor Jones, for this wonderful privilege of coming to this great church and sharing with the great people of God. Happy to have Pastor Morgan here tonight to come to share with us. Several of the saints of Salem are here. I thank you so much for, we have been doing some real going in the last 2 or 3 weeks everywhere, but few of them came tonight. I want to thank them for coming. My son, Frank Jr., thank you so much, Jr., for Brother James Polk. His father died a couple of days ago, and he's working with the family, but he's here tonight. Thank you so much, James, and New Generational Choir, and all of you. And then the members of Hills Chapel, thank you for exemplifying love toward your pastor, for being here tonight. That when you just show love and kindness, it go a long ways. And the fact that you're here Wednesday night after working all day, and you made this sacrifice to come to say to your pastor, we love you and we appreciate you. I applaud you for being here tonight. Amen. Let me get started. came from a family of 18 boys and girls, and my mother was always on us about putting more food on the plate than what you can eat. She always said, never put more than what you can eat. Don't waste no food. And I picked up that idea in preaching the Word of God, that I try not to read more scripture than what I'm going to get to. 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 1. 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 1. When you find it, say amen. It says, Peter. That's enough. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Peter. Help me say Peter. Thank you so much. There are characters in the Bible that's there for us to learn from, for us to grow and develop. Many characters you see, if you're not careful, will put us to shame. There's some characters that I run into in the Bible. It humbles me because I know I will never reach where they are. I am threatened by characters like Abraham, because when you check his life and follow his history and his resume, he had one lie on there. I'm threatened by that. For a person to live as long as he lived and didn't tell but one lie. I passed them many before I got out of my diapers. I am threatened by the Daniels in the Bible, because Daniel's enemies sought and watched him for days, and his enemies could find no fault in him. His enemies couldn't. You don't have to be my enemy to find fault in me. You can be my friends and find fault in me. You can be my family and find fault in me. You can be a part of my fellowship and find fault in me. And if you don't find it soon enough, if you just ask me, and I'll tell you, I have not only a fault, but faults. But some characters, if you watch them close enough, they will make you feel right at home. Peter is that character. When I see Peter and see what God did to him, I say to myself, there's hope for me. Because Peter was that character that every time he turned around, he had his foot in his mouth. He was saying something he should not say. The tragedy is, and the thing about him, when you look at him in Hebrew, he made it to the hall of faith. But what messed most of us up is that we see a person that's fully developed, and we try to stand next to them. But sometimes you have to go back and find out where they came from and what they encountered to get to where they are. I guess what I'm trying to tell you is that we see too many people in their glory, and you know nothing about their story. And many times you cannot appreciate that glory until you learn something about that story. Because most of us, if we're honest with ourselves, we haven't always been where we are now. There was a time that we didn't have what we have now. I take flashbacks every once in a while and go back to home, to where I was born, and look at how I had to come up, 6 of us sleeping in one bed, 3 at the head and 3 at the foot, and had the same thing all day for breakfast, lunch, and supper. We had molasses and bread for breakfast, molasses and bread for dinner, molasses and buttered bread for supper. Y'all don't have to help me here. And then when folks have the audacity to get jealous of where God brought me to, I tell them, look at the hand, because the face don't see you. We have to every now and then go back and see where we came from. I want to go back and pick up Peter and bring him through, if you got a moment. Just Peter. The first time I saw Peter, first time I ran into him, he was blind. He actually was blind. The man was blind. You said, preacher, I read about Peter all my life. I never remember him being blind. He was blind. Because when he first appeared in the scripture, he didn't know Jesus. And when you don't know Jesus, you're blind. Jesus said, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom. But before I laughed at Peter's blindness, I walked by the mirror and looked at myself. He said, I remember a time when I too was blind. The people that I see now that I shout with, and I'm one of them, I used to laugh at them when I was blind. Is there anybody here ever been blind? The Bible said we were all born in sin and shaped in iniquity. It's not that bad to once been blind if you're now able to see. It was John Newton that said in his song, I was blind, but now I can see. Peter was blind. But not only was he blind, Peter had a brother. Don't make sense. Doesn't seem like much. It's not that deep. Peter had a brother. Now, what's the point of it? Well, Peter had somebody in his family that knew Jesus. That you know that this is a day and time when a whole lot of people in houses all over America don't nobody know the Lord. Grandmama is lost, granddad is lost, mama lost, daddy lost, uncle lost, auntie lost. How can the children find the way when the people that should be leading them don't know the way. I saw a sign on the back of a car once, tag, said, listen, don't follow me because I'm lost too. He had a brother. It's good to have somebody in your house that know the Lord. I don't care who it is, if it's daddy know, if mama know, somebody in that house need to know Jesus. Did you know that if one person in that house know the Lord will save the house because of one saved? Let me give you an example. God got ready to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. He was going to destroy the city, and he talked it with Abraham, and God talked to his man servant. He said to Abraham, I'm going to destroy the city because their sins stink in my nostrils. Abraham said, you can't do that, Lord. So I got a nephew over there. So let me go get the nephew out of town before you destroy the city. And God said, no, instead of you go, I'll let the angel go get Lot and his family out of town. You know what God did? He spared the city till he got the saint out of town. You wonder sometimes that storms come through and it jump over your house and hit somewhere down the road. It could be he saved the house because you live in it. Y'all don't like me in this house. You've seen jobs that's still open and you wonder why they're still open and still doing business. Ain't because they treat everybody right. It could be still in working operation because you work there. Your church may still be standing because you're a member of the church. God will save a city because of one saint. Just one if you can get one person in the house to know Jesus. Peter was blind. He had a brother, but he was broad. He didn't just get up one Sunday morning, decide he's going to church. Terrible tragedy when you think sinners will just come down these aisles saying, I want to be saved. Sinner won't anymore come in here looking for Jesus than a criminal will flag down a police officer. If they come in, somebody got to bring them. Matter of fact, if you tell the truth, the reason you're saved is because somebody brought you to Jesus. Maybe you forgot who it was, but every now and then you ought to think back of the person that led you to Jesus and tell God, thank you for whoever that sister or brother was that took time to introduce Jesus to you. Peter was blind. He had a brother. He was broad. Shout, he was broad. Now, the good part about it, his brother had enough going for him, for Peter to want to follow. You can't do any and everything and get folks to follow you. That's a certain lifestyle you got to have for people to follow you. You can't gossip every day. Talk to me, somebody. Can't criticize people every night and live any kind of way and expect folk to follow you. You have to live the life you sing about in your song. Peter was broad, but he believed. You'll catch on in a moment. He believed. He was blind. He had a brother. He was broad. He believed. And helped me say he believed. Did you know the greatest sin on the planet is not adultery? It's not fornication. It's not homosexuality. It's not murder. It's not theft. It's not robbery. The greatest sin on the planet is the sin of unbelief. Because when you don't believe, you tie God's hand. God can't help you when you don't trust him. That's why it's important that every one of us that's saved, we must strengthen our faith life. Y'all don't like me this house. And then you ask the question, how can I have faith? Romans 10:17 says, faith come by hearing. Since y'all ain't no hurry, I might well take my time. Faith come by, shout hearing. Hearing is so important till God fixes it so that your ears are the first instruments in your body start working before birth. That while the baby is still in your mother's womb, the baby hear you. That's why you have to watch how you hang around people that's using profanity when you're pregnant, because the baby can pick it up. Y'all don't like me in this house. Be careful how you let your children, before they're born, hear. That's why you ought to read scripture to them while you're carrying a baby, because the baby picking it up. They come here in diapers cussing, and you wonder where they got it from. It's because they heard it. But your ears are not just the first instruments that start working before birth. Your ears are the last instruments that stop working before death. That while mama is in a coma, hands not moving, feet not moving, eyes closed, but the ears are still working. That's why you have to watch what you say around the hospital bed, because mama can hear you. Preach, Reverend Ray. So that's why it's important that every time you come to church, sit somewhere so you can hear. Don't sit beside people that's going to be hunching you and trying to get your attention, because they messing up your faith life. Faith come by hearing. Hearing come through by the word. Y'all hear me, don't you? Of God. And when I have faith, that means I have belief, I have trust, I have confidence in a God that can do anything. Peter, Lord, he believed. He was blind. He had a brother. He was brought. He believed, but he was bright. Peter was bright. They went to the coast of Caesarea Philippi, and Jesus stood over the great god Diana, and Jesus said, "Whom do men say that I, the Son of Man, am?" They said, "Do you want the public opinion or the private opinion?" He said, "Give me the public opinion first." He said, "Some call you Elijah." They call him Elijah because Elijah was a prayer. Elijah could pray and heaven would shut up for 3 years and 6 months, and then he could turn around and pray and rain would come down. He said, they saw you praying, Jesus, and you prayed so well until the disciples came to teach us to pray. As you taught your disciples, they called him Elijah because he was a prayer. So some call you John the Baptist because of you being a preacher, because Jesus was an awesome preacher. People would leave the comfort of the pews and go to the seashore to hear Jesus say, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." They said, "Some call you John the Baptist because you are a preacher." So some call you Jeremiah because you're a prophet. A prophet is a man with sight, insight, and foresight. With sight, he look on things. Insight, he look into things. Foresight, he look beyond things. A prophet is a man that understands the past, know how to deal with the present. With his knowledge of the past, his insight of the present, he's able to predict the future. So they call you Jeremiah. Jesus said, that's good. That's the public opinion. How about the private opinion? Peter stood up and raised his hand. He said, I got the answer. He said, thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. He was bright. Anybody here know that if you know Jesus, you're bright? Maybe you can't read your name written in boxcar letters, but if you know Jesus, you're bright. If I got any help in this house, you can have a PhD, but remember, that's only 3 letters of the English alphabet. That means you got 23 more you know nothing about. But you can have a PhD and don't know Jesus. You dumb. Do I have a witness? Peter, Lord, he was, help me say, bright. Let me poll the house just for a moment and ask, do we have any bright people in the house tonight? I don't mean the color of your skin, but I mean, are you bright with the Lord? Peter, Lord, he was bright. He was blind. He had a brother. He was broad. He believed. He was bright, but he was bold. I'm going to let y'all know. He was bold. Let me tell you about his boldness. One day Jesus went on into the mountain to pray. He left his disciples out on the Sea of Galilee. It was the third watch of the night. Darkness was everywhere. They had no lights on the lake. Storm shows up. Anybody know if you live long enough, storms will show up. The disciples wrestled with that storm for hours, hair soaked, eyelids heavy, muscles sore, scared to death. And the fourth watch of the night, they looked and saw Jesus walking on the water. Lord, he was not on tiptoes. If though he was trying to avoid waking in a sleeper, he came walking. Not with bent back. If though he was carrying a heavy load, he came walking. Not hurriedly. If though he was trying to get out of the way of the storm, Jesus came walking. Like a bride coming to the altar to meet the bridegroom, he came walking. Like a judge walking to the chamber to try a case, he came walking. Talk to me, somebody. Peter saw him walking on the water. Peter hollered from the boat and said, Master, is that you? He said, if it be you, bid me to come to you on the water. Lord have mercy. Yeah, Jesus used the word that's used 682 times in the Bible. It's the word come. And you know what Peter did? Peter stepped out of the boat. Preach, Reverend Ray. Now, if you've been against him all night, you got to give him credit for stepping out of the boat. You see, in life, if you're going to be faithful, and if you're going to walk by faith, You got to have enough faith to step out of the boat. Some people will end up drowning because you too scared, Lord, to step out of the boat. I'm looking at somebody here now. You want to start your own business, but you're scared to step out of the boat. Y'all don't like me. Somebody want to do something spectacular in your life, but you still hanging around with doubt because you're afraid to step out of the boat. Now, Peter, Lord, stepped, y'all don't hear me, out of the boat because he was bold. Help me say the man was bold. Now, a lot of other people did a lot of stuff, but they didn't step out of the boat. Abraham left home with a promise and a suitcase, going to a land he knew not of, but he didn't step out of the boat. Moses spent 40 years thinking he was somebody, 40 years learning he was nobody, 40 years learning how God could take a nobody and make a somebody, but he didn't step out of the boat. Joshua marched around the walls of Jericho 7 times and the walls fell down, but he didn't have enough faith to step out of the boat. Samson took the jawbone on an ass and whooped 1,000 Philistines, but he didn't step out of the boat. David took a sling and 5 smooth stones and killed the giant Goliath, but he didn't have enough faith to step out of the boat. Talk to me, somebody. But Peter, Lord, hold me a moment, had enough faith to step out of the boat. Shake somebody's hand and say, honey, am I sitting next to a person got enough faith to step out of the boat? Y'all don't hear me. And then the Bible said, and Peter walked on the water. Let me tell you what Peter really did, and I got to move on. He really didn't walk on the water. He walked on the word. Because when God gives you orders to do something, here's what God will do. He'll roll his word out. And all you got to do is keep walking on the word. Anybody know, as long as you, Lord, hold me a moment, stay on the word, you can't go under. So every now and then you ought to thank God for the word. Peter was bold, but not only was he bold, he was bad. I know y'all ready for me to quit. Help me say he was bad. When Jesus, and I let you go, was on his way to Calvary. Lord, the Roman soldiers came to arrest Jesus. And Lord, they had, Herod had some armor bearers around him to keep him protected. There was one armor bearer by the name of Michael. Walked up, Peter took out his sword. He aimed at the man's head. He ducked, and Peter caught his ear and cut off the Roman soldier's ear. Lord, Jesus said to Peter, Peter, put up your sword. I told you a while ago to pray, and you went to sleep. And now you're going to get me killed in a midnight brawl. And Jesus picked up the man's ear and put it back on his head. According to legend, the man took Peter to court and had him charged with attempted murder. Got to court, Lord. The judge said, sir, can you tell us why you're here? He said, Your Honor, this man named Simon Peter with that long knife cut off this here ear. The judge said, now, sir, I don't know if you passed the mirror. He said, but your ear is still on your head. He said, can you explain that? He said, well, this man named Jesus picked it up and put it back on my head. The judge said, you know, I've been practicing law for years. Anytime anybody get cut, that's always a scar. Come here, let me examine your head. The judge said, I don't see a sign that you've ever been cut? Can you tell me what happened? I can hear the Roman soldier say, evidently this man named Jesus covered up the evidence. Anybody here know that Jesus major in covering up the evidence? Have I got a witness? I'm glad he's an evident cover-up, because if he had not covered up evidence, wouldn't none of y'all want to sit here and hear me tonight. And on the other hand, if God had not covered up the evidence, I wouldn't want to preach to none of y'all. Yeah, but Peter haven't got any help in this house. Help me say he was bad. Yeah, but not only was Peter bad, Peter at one time got bitter. Lord, when Jesus was on his way to trial, Jesus had already said to Peter, Peter said, Father, they might forsake you, but I'll be with you wherever you go. The Lord said to Peter, before the cock crow, you will have denied me 3 times. Peter said, oh no, Lord, they might leave you, but I'll be with you wherever you go. Is there anybody here tonight ever made a promise that you didn't keep? You see, because you're human, sometimes you have good intentions, but sometimes you ain't got enough to back up what you just promised. Yeah, and somebody went running to Peter after they had arrested Jesus. Haven't you been with Jesus? Peter said, no, not me. But can I just throw in for a moment, if you've ever been with the Lord, it shows up. Have I got a witness? If you ever been with Jesus, it come out in your conversation. It come out in your walk. It come out in your talk. It come out in your attitude. It come out in your disposition. It's hard to spend time with Jesus and somebody don't pick it up. Have I got a witness? Another person walked up to Peter and said, aren't you one of those Galileans? Peter said, no, not me. Oh, Lord. And somebody else walked up to him and said, when they heard Peter talking, and Peter cussed and swear and said, I don't know the man. Oh, Lord. And when Jesus walked by, he didn't say nothing to Peter. He just looked at him. Have I got a witness him? And the Bible said Peter wept bitterly. Have you ever been in a situation like that? You know, when I was at home, Mama wouldn't get us and drag us out of church like parents do now and beat us on the outside of the church. She would sit there and just look at us. Oh, Lord. But that looks sad. Baby, you better give your heart to God now, because when we get out of here, you're behind his mind. Y'all don't like that. Peter was bitter. But not only was Peter bitter, Peter knew how to bow. Have I got one witness? Anybody know tonight that when you know how to bow, you can make your way through any situation? When you learn how to bow, burdens don't get too heavy, trouble don't get too hard for you to make your way through. The Bible said in Acts chapter 3, now Peter and John went up into the temple at the hour of prayer. Is there anybody here know that when you learn how to bow, I don't care how bad the storm is, you can pray your way through any situation? Just shake one hand. So honey, can I ask you a question? Do you know how to bow? Have I got a witness? There is power in bowing. Do I have a witness? You see, when you bow, the devil is afraid of you. The devil don't want to fool with a person that know how to bow. Have I got a witness here? But not only that Peter knew how to bow, he knew how to bless. I'm out of here now. He knew how to bless. Oh, Lord. You see, too many times we want God to bless us. But every now and then we ever try to bless the Lord. Have I got a witness? It was on the day of Pentecost. They were all filled with the Holy Spirit. Have I got a witness? And they were praising God so much until the outsiders say, y'all must be drunk on brand new wine. You see, drinking and filled with the Spirit, you almost act the same way. Do I have a witness? When you get drunk, you'll get loud. Have I got a witness? When you fill with the Spirit, you'll get loud. It's hard for you to hold your peace when the Holy Ghost take control of your life. Have I got a witness? But when you're drunk, you don't care how you look. You walk out of the house with your wig on sideways, with a brown shoe and a blue shoe on. You don't care how you look. And when you're filled with the Spirit, you're not caught up with looks. If you didn't have what you wanted to wear, you'd come on with what you got on. Have I got a witness here? But when you're drunk, you give your last dime. 2 or 3 will nip it up and get a fifth of ripple, and they'll all drink it by themselves. When you fill with the Holy Spirit, you'll give everything you got. I'm out of here tonight. Thank y'all for letting me stop by. I'm like Peter tonight. I feel like praising the Lord. God been too good to me, done too much for me, brought me from too far, kept me too long. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Anybody know he's all right? I said, do you know he's all right? The God I serve, he's better than good. He's sweeter than honey. He's mightier than a mountain. He's wider than a round. He's straighter than a cross. He's purer than air, clear than a crystal. Tapes can't measure him. Water can't drown him. Fire can't burn him. Death can't kill him. Grave can't hold him. Y'all know him, don't you? He's like Coca-Cola. He's the real thing. He's like Pepsi Cola. He'll make you come alive. He's like Bear Aspirin. He works wonders. He's like a Timex watch. Will take a licking and keep on ticking. He's like Scotch tape. You can't see him, but you know he's there. He's like Allstate. You're in good hands when you're in his hands. He's like Prudential. He's the rock. He's like a Greyhound bus. You do the riding and leave the driving up to him. He's like American Express. Don't ever leave home without him. Help me say it's all right. All right. All right. I know he is. I know he is. I know he is.
Door of the church is open. If you're here, you don't have Christ in your life, we invite you to come now and meet the Jesus that saved the life of Peter and turned his life all the way around. You're here, you don't have Christ, we invite you to come. Is he about to sing?
I know we'll make a way. Yes, he will. I know the Lord will make a way. Yes, he will. Yes, I do. When I'm burdened and don't know what to do, I can go to God and secret prayer. I know he will surely
Thank God for Pastor Ray. Come on, give my pastor. Amen. Come, y'all do better than that for my pastor. Come on. Come on. Come on. Lord have mercy. Thank you. Thank you so much, Pastor, for stopping by and blessing us. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pastor. Hey, come on, give my pastor another hand. Keep my pastor in your prayers. He's preaching too much. I'm gonna say it that way. He just preaching too much in too many different places. So please keep him in your prayers and keep him lifted. I didn't even know if he had any energy today, but Lord have mercy. Lord have, come on, God, y'all, come on now. I'm praying the Lord keep me like that as well. Amen. Amen, Lord have mercy. Amen. Jesus. Thank you so much, Hill Chapel, for 2 nights. Thank you all for coming and being a part. Kill Avenue, y'all stand. Kill Avenue. Come on, give Kill Avenue a big hand. Thank y'all so much for being so sweet and kind and coming 2 nights. I appreciate your presence here. Thank y'all so much for being kind like that. And Pastor Morgan is here. I'm glad to see him. That's my little brother. That's my little brother.